to the 6, we be in the mix. With that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by the visit Glen Rock, need crypto told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix. With that rare candy paint job on the whip, who you with?
So, long time friend. We were just talking about how long time we've known each other and the things that aren't around anymore since then. The way the world's looked has been a lot different since the last time we've talked. But it's Fredo. You can catch him with the Good Old Boys radio live that they do, an excellent show. That like broadcasts to Twitter now, I noticed.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's a good idea for what they do.
Yeah, and I definitely like even in the chat, I can tell like it, it tells you which platform people are listening from. So I know that there's people listening from there. So kind of a new audience, which is pretty cool.
I see, because what shows me, it's like, because you see it on the spaces, it's like there's a comma. I'm like, wow, a comma of people listening. There's a comma number. That's pretty good. It's very impressive. Well, of course, shout out to them and stuff. It's always fun to collaborate with them. But it's been a while since we've talked. The world is constructed a bit differently. For the nothing ever happens people, I'll just say, listen to our old episodes with Fredo versus the one we're about to do right now. Things have happened. Good things have happened, in my opinion, because I remember one of the times we had you on, I don't know if it was the last one or not, we were talking about vaccine hearings and we weren't sure what was going to be mandated, what wasn't. There was a real scary time. But okay, lots changed, new president, all this stuff. How are you feeling just overall about how things are going? Is it over or are we back, I guess, is what I'm
I'm of the position that like you can never think it's over, because even if it's over, there's no like benefit to thinking it's over, right? Like you always got to be on the like we're so back team no matter what. So even that aside, like that general life perspective, things are going pretty well. You could always say, like, here's what I would be doing differently. Here's how this could be doing differently. Here's the tactical mistakes people are making. But, if you stepping back, looking at a broad view, are things happening that, like, I did not even think were on the table 6 months ago? Absolutely.
Absolutely. No. And the big one for me is the tariffs. I like the reason I reached out again. You just get in modes of like, we're doing this. And I was like, we got to talk to Fredo again. It's been forever. And there have been people requesting you back on the show too. I was like, yeah, you're right. You guys are right. We got to have Fredo on. And, but we're talking about tariffs. And one thing I hated more than anything, you can be for or against. A lot of people's stock portfolio will dictate their take on a lot of this. But there were a lot of people, I just didn't like the attitude that like nothing can get done in America, that like mode of blackpilling, where I was like, like you said earlier, you just can't be in that mindset. And you made the comparison to Nike and New Balance, which I loved.
Yeah. First of all, it's just patently untrue, right? People that are saying that there's like X thing that we can't make in the United States. Unless it's a situation where it requires some raw material that we don't have here, right? And you're talking about like inability to import it. It's just not true. We have, probably 350 million people here now.
Right.
We have a lot of natural resources. We have a lot of know-how. It's still, if it's a technical skill issue, it's still the educational center of the world, right? Everybody is where all foreign countries try to send their people for education. And just, there's always on almost every single thing that people claim can't be made here, there's the counter example. So like that goes to the Nike New Balance thing. One of the things that like, the point people have made early on about the tariffs was like Nikes are going to get so more expensive and there's just no way they're going to start making them here in response. And that's just, it's wrong, right? New Balance doesn't make all of their shoes in the United States. And I'm sure there is some amount of imported material in their US made shoes, but they are making shoes in the United States and they're not more expensive than Nikes. So, that's just like one example of just ways in this is patently untrue. Just to stick with footwear, I wear Rainbow sandals, popular brand of sandals. Rainbow makes 2 different lines of sandals. They make their Americana series, which are 100% made in the U.S. and in California, of all places, not like a low-wage state, San Clemente, California. And then they make their like standard line, which is made, I guess, in China. I don't know. I buy the Americana ones. The price difference is like $10,
Right?
Like between those two pairs of shoes. You know what I mean? So like, what are we talking about here?
You used to hear that all the time too about ethical consumption too. Like you'd hear whether it exists or not, but it's like that's like I'm down to spend $10 if I know something is like sustainably made over here. And I don't mean sustainable in a climate change way. I just mean like the production of it, you know, and things like that. I just nobody said that it was going to be like a seamless thing. And look, right now I'm shopping for like Mother's Day gifts for my mom, and I saw something I was trying to buy my mom from France, and I was like, whoa, $25 to ship now. I was like, that's interesting. And then I realized there's got to be something but that's like, I wasn't willing to just ruin the country over that. You know, basically when I say it's like, that is the black pill, is when I go, well, I can get a relatively cheap TV delivered to my house. And I think this is a kind of a crux of what Good Old Boys talks about, is you can get, you know, a TV to your house for a reasonably priced thing made from components all over the world. But guess what? Like everything else seems so out of reach. You know, everything else seems so out of reach. And I thought this was a way to do kind of a reset. Yeah, and it is a gamble. I think it is a gamble, but it's a gamble I'm willing to make, because otherwise, like, where was this headed?
Exactly. I mean, Merrick actually has a really good quote on this where he said, tariffs are a bet that your country has a future. And that's what it is. Like that's literally what it is, right? Because it is a gamble to some extent. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but you are gambling that you have a future, because the alternative is that we're going to ride it out on cheap stuff as long as you can, while you sort of, you know, more and more people's lives start to decline. The only reason that this like system is even possible right now, right? This sort of idea where everything comes from overseas and, you know, made by super low wage labor, and wages in the US overall are, you know, don't keep up, but, you know, the product's getting cheaper, which is not evenly distributed, right? It's like TVs are getting cheaper, but not if you want to buy a house, and you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's only sustainable because foreign countries, you know, pour those dollars back into the US financial services industry, which is like the fake economy, you know, more or less, that benefits like a small group of people. This is the first time something like this has even been possible, but I think everyone sort of realizes that it also can't just continue interminably forever, where you have just a country of people that do nothing but consume and shuffle money around, and everything else is just made somewhere else. It doesn't make any sense. And where the rubber really meets the road, like I am in a situation where on a personal level, for the rest of my limited lifespan, right, on Earth, I probably would be able to have more stuff, for lack of a better term, under the current system, right? Like where people are just on the whole getting paid lower wages, but my stock portfolio is going up and all this stuff. This is a trade-off like I'm willing to make, right? Like, because it doesn't even actually have to be this totally selfless thing. Like, there's also a way to look at it where you can say, like, look, I actually just want to live in a place where you walk around and like there aren't like, you know, drugged out zombies on the street and things like that, because people have something to live for. They have a purpose. They know that they have meaning in their lives to go to work. Go ahead. You go.
No, I was talking about just to what you said there. Sam Hyde. I mean, say what you will about the guy. Like the guy, when he is serious and earnest about something, and particularly the economy, the guy makes a lot of sense. And he was talking about, especially millennials. This is a millennial thing. There was the avocado toast meme that happened, you know, for a long time, which is, you know, you guys would have X if you didn't stop spending money on Y. These small little trinkets, these small things, they add up. Which, yeah, I mean, look, there's a mirror to be looked in there in terms of the way we spend money. But Sam Hyde was saying we constantly have this illusion of progress because we constantly have $30 to piss away on something. Like most people have $30 to like order a decadent meal delivered to their house. Like a lot of people do have that. But then you look at Zillow, especially where I live, you look at Zillow and you go, well, of course I'm going to buy this stupid thing because I'll never buy that thing. That's never going to happen.
You nailed it. That's exactly what I was about to say. These people are just sort of, it's almost an escapism to make yourself feel better that regarding the bigger things, you actually don't have the ability to acquire that thing. And, you know, the opposite of this is regardless of what you thought of him overall, but Fordism, right? Like I think most listeners probably know this, but Henry Ford intentionally raised the wages of the assembly line workers on the idea that that like he was sort of trend setting in the manufacturing economy as to where wages were going to go.
Yeah.
And he needed people working in that industry being able to afford to buy a Ford, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the idea. I think the old thing is if you inflation adjust, the guys on the line for in his era were making 150 grand a year.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine that. Yeah.
So tight.
Yeah, and anyone's willing, like, if you tell me I can have a home for 40 grand, I could buckle down and get that done. You know, like I feel a lot more people would be willing to do that, or even a down payment that would have a good interest rate or something, you know, like a 20% down situation. But yeah, no, yeah, finish line. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a finish, something to look at, like a goal, you know, and it's just, it just, some people, you know, the way in the Bay Area, the way this, you know, where I'm at, the way these houses sell, and it's typically, I mean, you know, not making a statement about culture or anything, but like Asian and Indian families, they will live together in a house that, you know, maybe a couple of them have jobs at Apple, a couple of them stay at home or whatever, and they will save their money and buy a bunch of houses in the Bay Area, and they grind hard, they buckle down, they're very frugal with what they spend on. But I'm kind of like, that's not the model that I don't think I have to do that model. I don't have to match that. And that's my problem with like a globalist society, is where it's like, why do I have to match this like hack? This like this, I'm down for America to be competitive. We got to have an idea of what America is when we're going to be competitive. And a lot of people are scared to do that, which is why this was everything we're saying right now was said by leftists, quote unquote, who were trying to gain like populist support in the 2010s. And there's not a shred of that anymore, by the way. There's not a shred of that anymore because it requires sacrifice, and it requires kind of just looking at the world objectively a little bit and just realizing, like, what would I get rid of? What would I get rid of in order to have something that you can pass down generationally speaking, something that just you go home to after a rough day at work or something, rather than these shoebox apartments everywhere. We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode.
Yeah, and part of it too is just sort of to, channel my good old boys appearances here. Like the patronage network sort of expanded since then. And there is this zero-sum idea that, like, if, for instance, union workers become like a larger portion of the liberal coalition, that's less money to go around to, like, I don't know, like TAs or people that work like in social services or things of that nature. Right. And that really has exploded over the past, like that was always around, but that really has exploded over the past 10 to 15 years. That really took off in the Obama era and just sort of started accelerating during that time. And then, so you have these people that are like, well, now, like on a personal level, those dollars that are going to go to workers on the line, those are dollars that, like, I could be getting, because if Corporation X doesn't have to pay their workers so much, that's more that they're donating to this random NGO where I have a God knows what job. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't feel, and like, I don't believe what this is like reactionary. A lot of people say, well, you can't turn back. You put the cat back in the bag, whatever. Anything. I don't think that's what this is. I think there's a way to actually progress. I know that word is kind of tainted at this point, but there's a way to actually progress on that front. And I don't know the economy well enough, but I just felt like, okay, there were people screaming about the tariffs, about the stock market for almost a decade now, since Trump first ran for president. People were scared of that. But there were so many people, I feel like they willingly took a bath in the stock market as a martyr. It was really strange. Like, I'm like, wouldn't you pull everything out the minute he won? Like, if you were that scared, if you were like kind of like a Clintonite neoliberal boomer, you think you would take your money out of the market and be like, let's just see.
Especially if you're 60 years old and you've already put a lifetime of especially if you're like already, I don't know.
I mean, I'll take the other side of that one.
Sure,
Not that I'm sympathetic to these people, but like the way they were looking at it is they were thinking about his first term and the stock market. Like they probably thought that the greater Republican Party and or, a business interest, whatever, would persuade him to do the tariffs in a half-ass way and the stock market would keep going up. Because you have to remember, there's a huge opportunity cost to pulling all your money out of the market that way, because if you look at like historically, all of the biggest parts of gains in like a decade period will sometimes all take place in like one quarter. And if you were out of the market that entire quarter, like you might have set yourself back several years. So that's the way that those people were probably looking at it, was like, well, like I've just been riding. It could just honestly for the past 5+ years, you should just have your stuff in an index fund doing nothing and you'd be killing it. Right. So that's probably the way people were looking at it and just kind of thinking it would go on forever, especially if you thought that inflation was going to continue. Then you really didn't want to be out of that index fund.
Or they thought they didn't like the cultural stuff around the administration, but they thought that it would get pumped, and they're kind of like little revealed preference thing a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't really have a portfolio. I have a little bit of Bitcoin, which that's doing fine. Like that to me, that was nice to hold on to. Everybody that said that was a gamble, I'm like, well, so is the stock market apparently. So I mean, I get why that's kind of the generational disconnect, right? Is just like a lot of people, and I don't consider it like a privilege or anything to the boomer. I think people have this scorned attitude towards the boomers and the money that they have. That's not what I'm saying. It's just they never understood that it's just a little bit different for I'm speaking for people around my age. Like it's just a little bit different, and I that's why, maybe not why, there's multiple reasons, but I think that's why the numbers look the way they did towards Trump, because it was somebody doing something. Like it was somebody doing something. It was things happening.
For sure.
It was dice rolled. And to be honest, like when you're living the way a lot of, modern people live, like a roll of the dice is like what happens to you every day. So when you see a president who, again, I don't have a lot in common with Donald Trump, like I don't come from the same line of people or anything, but I kind of felt like he was just doing like a point A to point B thing that just felt so refreshing. I'm like, yeah, like why don't I do that? Like why, that's something I would think of. And maybe that's a nightmare to some people, something I would think of, but I thought it was refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can see the logic, you can see where things are going, and that is going to be refreshing to a lot of people. By the way, are you guys, I think I always find this interesting, are you guys millennial guys or Gen X guys?
Millennial. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, pretty much right.
Squarely in the middle. Yeah.
Right. I think squarely in the middle of that generation. I'm 34, going to be 35. So yeah, it's just, it's right in the middle.
Thank God we're not the older millennials,
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a Gen X guy. So like I have the cross. I just kind of thought of this when you were talking about the boomer thing. I have the crossover where I feel like I have, like you, I actually don't like when people just go like insane, like anti-boomer stuff. Because it's like, come on, man. Like these guys, they were born during a really awesome time.
I would do the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good for them. And by the way, like not every boomer, like definitely there is a boomer thing where like, oh, I don't care about my kids or that kind of stuff. But it's probably not even most of them. There's enough of them that the stereotype rings true. But anyway, my larger point was like, because I'm in between those two generations, I kind of think I tend to see both sides of it.
Yeah. Oh no, exactly. I'm just mad that that the boomer thing doesn't exist for me. I mean, it's not. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. And you get why they're institution trusters. I mean, not everything, but most things that happened, if they worked hard, they could support every current thing and just be like, okay, on the other side of that, even if what I'm supporting isn't exactly good or not, the line goes up and I'm good. Like, so it's so much more nuanced and complicated for generations below that. I feel like in terms of, well, if I support that, does that really mean that, I don't know. I'm speaking very vague here because I honestly couldn't give too many examples, but I just feel like it was like, okay, this is the goal. That's the goal. You can see it on the frontier. Go get it. For us, we're like, what is the goal? I don't know. I don't know what the goal is.
Like you could really just work and save in their generation, right? Like you could just, there are people that I know from that generation, like boomer age people that were like, Yeah, like I could have gotten a mortgage, but I instead just decided to wait 5 years and then buy my house in cash. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that, which is generally not available to most people today. And just, working your summer job in high school and buying a Camaro with it. like that kind of stuff.
My dad bought I think a Barracuda, like when he was working at like some random summer job, and I was just like, damn, that's so tight. Like, and I mean, again, that's how you get patriotism out of people, by the way. Like, it's just how you get like my parents are Democrats, and I don't think they love the way the country's going right now, but they both consider themselves like patriotic to the country. You know what I mean? Because they're just like, because I mean, they do remember a time. Like, they do remember a time where it was like, okay, if I just do what I'm supposed to do, and there's an actual uniform set of rules of what you're supposed to do, personal accountability exists because these are the rules to follow. And then right now it's just like, what is this? What even is that? It's all these like philosophical questions of how you achieve this thing. And yeah, like you said, like my grandfather is another thing. He every day he worked at General Electric. And it was a good job. I don't even know what he did. I just feel like it was like some Homer Simpson job, just like walking around a factory. But I'm assuming, he did it forever, even survived the buyout by Honeywell. And he would eat a bologna and cheese sandwich every single day in a cemetery by himself. Never went out to lunch. I mean, there weren't as many restaurants to do that or anything back then. Never went out to lunch. And I don't imagine he made that much money, but he had a lot of money. And it was just like, he kept his costs low. Whereas for me, it's just like everything's itemized here. And even as a part of like a global economy, which is supposed to make everything readily available to me, I still feel like I'm paying out the ass for everything. Even stuff that, every step of every process is like a payment. My card's on file in all these places. That's just like, man, like, how do you save money nowadays? Like, it's tough.
Yeah. And there is an important point that you hit on early there, which was that one of the more interesting sort of discussions I have with people that always really shocks them, people that are sort of into economics, is like sometimes people will say, what? Well, if you study this and that, or you look at the charts, like this is more economically efficient, right? Or like people will tell you like, oh, actually people are richer now because they can buy X, Y, and Z that they couldn't buy in 1950 or whatever. My response to that always surprises people, because instead of diving in the numbers with them and trying to find a fallacy, or which you probably could do, honestly, but I don't even do any of that. I just say like, I don't care about any of that, because even if all that is true and the economy is somehow 20% less efficient in a situation where the guy that works at Ford is making 150 grand a year, that's just still preferable. And that is actually, I'm actually not trying to make an objective math judgment there, like econometric judgment. This is actually, I just own it. This is a moralistic judgment that I'm making. Like, that is an acceptable efficiency loss in the economy to, go back to that type of system.
You're right. Exactly. You can show me a chart. That's my thing. It's like I feel like a long time ago, it was like one thing that was trusted. It was just like, okay, this, right? And it was, how much money do you have? What do you need to buy? And can you do it? And then you would get the job. Like, and I'm actually, there's a lot of people who scoff at like low end labor. And I don't, because I work it, honestly. But like I go to like stores and I just see, part of it is definitely a generational thing that I think there's kind of a smugness to a certain generation. But I'll go to a store and everybody's surprised when I walk in. Sometimes I'm like, what? Like, you walk in and they're like, did you need something? I'm like, I'm just shopping at your store because it's open. And they look at me and it's just, there's boxes all over the floor. And it's like the middle of the day when stuff was typically done by a night crew, but you can tell the store is not spending on the night crew. And I just was like, man, I understand that a lot of people's response is get a better job. That job's not for people who do that, for smart people. I'm like, yeah, but I miss competent people in the service industry. I miss that. I miss competent people working at grocery stores. Like, that stuff bothers me that it's not there anymore. Like, it makes your life like that. If you have a bad day at work and then you go pick something up after work, and that's an arduous, horrible process, with just people who can't make eye contact with you, people that can't, do a simple task. And then you realize you're like, yeah, but they also make not that much money an hour. I know minimum wage goes up, but so does the rent. So does all of this thing. So that's clearly not working. And that's, in short, why I say, you know what? I don't know what Trump's end game is with the tariffs, but let's try it.
Yeah. And it's always, by the way, like, to your point, you can kind of always tell the stores, and I'm not even saying they pay well, but even the ones that pay a little bit more, like in this economy,
Sure.
because the employees have a completely different countenance sort of about them when you're in there. Like these things make a difference. So I think the one that people use a lot is like Chick-fil-A, right? Like
Sure.
that's like a good example. But I mean, even like, we don't have one where I live, but if I'm in an area that has one, like Trader Joe's, the employees are just much cheerier than at like a typical grocery store. And I know that is because, you know, at some level they're making more than the typical chain grocery store.
Oh yeah, I mean it's without question. In-N-Out Burger is a big one in California. Like they make, I mean I don't know what they make, but I think they start out at like $20 an hour here. It's young, fresh-faced people just doing their job. They read the stuff back to you. If they make a mistake, they fix it. It's a really good process. Aesthetically, it hasn't changed at all. But if it did, I don't imagine the employees would. And it's just like, wow, that's and guess what? It's cheaper than most fast food. Like you go to, it's like, why is this cheap? I don't.
That one's because with In-N-Out, I believe it's because it's a private company. It's not public, so they don't have to be constantly focused on like, oh, our profits went down a tiny bit this quarter. You know what I mean? So everybody knows, and the stock price goes down. Another one that's like that, that's also a private company is are you guys know about Buc-ee's?
We don't have them, but I know what they are. Yes.
Yeah, we have them where I live, and Buc-ee's, like they post it, you know, this is actually very smart marketing for them too. It makes people feel good about going there. They have a giant sign when you first walk into Buc-ee's that says what everybody makes. Like, so it'll be like cashier, $20 an hour, which in my part of the country, I don't live in California. That's a lot of money.
It's good.
And it's like the store manager here, I'm not making this up, makes $250,000. Like that's what you make as like the store manager of a Buc-ee's. So, or at least in my area. So like they just post that as soon as you walk in. The car wash manager, $150,000. Like, you know what I mean? Like, damn,
it's pretty good.
I mean, that's really good. Yeah, I know because I think the counter to that, or it's similar. I don't know if it's similar because I've never been in a Buc-ee's, but like they have Maverick out on the West Coast, which is like that bit. Outside, you guys have those up there, those Maverick.
I've been to Mavericks out west driving. Buc-ee's is different level.
Different level. Okay.
Yeah, like Buc-ee. I'll put it to you this way, like Buc-ee's, just like the size of it, the amount of food and stuff they have. Yeah. And the thing they're really famous for is the bathroom crew, which is probably the only place in the world where the bathroom crew at least makes like okay money.
Yeah.
They don't leave. They are cleaning the bathrooms 24/7. Like if you're on bathroom crew, you're working your 8-hour shift in the bathroom, and they are immaculate. Like that's what they're known for. Like these are really high volume stores with like thousands and thousands of people constantly going in and out. And like the toilet is like immaculate in every stall.
It's like a high-end restaurant.
Yeah. Cause I've seen like YouTubers going like, I'm trying every snack in Buc-ee's, and I'm like, that place looks, I'd eat the food off the floor there. I mean, I was like, the place looks great.
Toilet
and this is a truck stop. I mean, not a truck stop, it's a gas station, but like you see a lot of like long haul truckers like pulling in and stuff like that.
Actually, they don't allow, that's an interesting thing. They don't allow trucks. So they only allow, like, they don't allow trucks as in like tractor trailers. It's only for like non-commercial use. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, that I didn't know. And that's where Maverick's a little different, I think. So yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'd be, remiss to have you on and not ask you about Bitcoin right now, because that's there's been a lot of meme coins since we last talked. A lot of rug pulling. I see a lot of people talking about cryptocurrency is a scam. I was talking to my mom the other day. She's like, it's a scam. It's all a scam. I was like, I was like, Bitcoin's pretty solid though. Like Bitcoin, seems pretty good. She's like, no, it's all a scam. I was like, oh, okay. But she's thinking about Hawk Tuah coin. She knows. I don't know why my mom should not know what Hawk Tuah coin is, by the way. I'm against the John Olivers of the world telling my mom what Hawk Tuah coin is and getting her worked up about that. But anyways, there's all these rug pull things. But I'll tell you what, I sold my Bitcoin a while back, a long time ago. Probably when we first started the show, needed to move some money around or something. I did buy it again, and I'm happy that I have it. But it hasn't really lost steam, despite the kind of cringe crypto world that's kind of come of it, that everybody kind of makes fun of. So where are you at with Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've noticed definitely over the past few years is more and more every year, Bitcoin sort of separates itself from the broader crypto world, just in terms of the businesses that are in that industry, people that are pushing it. things of that nature. It's gotten further and further away. And that's especially true in the current environment where like in 2017, 18, 19, 20, the rug pull scams were all, they pretended to have some value, right? Like, oh, this is a coin that's going to power a world computer and change the world in this way, or all this crap. Like there was like some sort of story they were trying to tell. That has actually all fallen away now. And it's just like, oh yeah, this coin has a cool name. And this guy like on YouTube talks about how great it is. And I'm not justifying this, but everybody's kind of like going into it from the beginning, like knowing it's a pump and dump and thinking that they're smart enough to get out before the bottom falls out. Like that's how like all these work now. And I think that is like contributor to the distinction as well, is like, there's no more like coins really that are like pretending to be a global currency other than Bitcoin. Everything else is now just like, oh, this fun coin with a dog on it that like is going to be popular for 6 months, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right. I was just thinking, Sai and I know a guy who's a big Ripple guy. He's just massively into Ripple.
That one is still around. Like that's
crazy.
He's a maximalist. This guy is.
They all are
maximalist.
They all are, and it's insane because it's not it's like they can burn the supply at any time, and they could sell it. The CEO could just sell it to make money to fund their own little business. It's so insane, and I don't know why.
Like that's the OG one too. Like that one has been around scamming people, and it's got like 9 lives.
My mom bought the top of that in like 2017. Dude, it was crazy. And I was like, yeah, dude, and it was. And like, I don't know, it was crazy. Yeah.
Do you remember like in that era too, Bill Clinton spoke at like their annual conference?
Yeah. Their whole thing is that they're the cope, at least, is that they're gonna like transform the banking networks, and all the banks are gonna use them, which makes no sense. Like, why would they pick fucking random Ripple to do that?
Especially now, this thing has been around almost 10 years, and there's no banks using it. Like, but it's still the same exact story. And like, they just have 9 lives because they constantly, there were like, I feel like at least 2 times they were on the verge of like getting shut down for securities violations or other crap. And like you think they're dead. And then 18 months later, it's like back again.
It's insane. Yeah. I do have, go ahead.
No.
Oh, well, I do have a Bitcoin question for you, Fredo. And I feel I'm somewhat of a maximalist, maybe not to the degree that you guys are. I do like an ecosystem of cryptos, and I think there is a line between like Hawktua and maybe some of the, and I like the tech. I like, there being this DeFi thing being available and whatnot. And but I think Bitcoin is the best one for sure. I was gonna ask, and this I remember the funny moment from our last podcast where I asked if you could use the Bitcoin Roth IRAs to short the market, and you said no, which was a bummer.
To me, because I just love it as like just a small savings. Like it's nice. Like I mean, people always act like when you say you're into it, they think you're like all in all the time. Like and it's just the people who don't know. They think you're either cash or Bitcoin. I'm like, I have a little bit of both. Like
as you should. I mean, because we live in like a society where dollars and like, you know what I mean? Like you can believe very strongly in the long-term potential of Bitcoin. And for instance, still also have traditional stock investments because you also like, it depends on your age, I suppose too. But like, if you're a middle-aged guy like me, I also am going to need assets that are appreciating in the 5 to 10 year time frame, which Bitcoin certainly has, but like in a more volatile way, right? And that may change over time, and that balance changes. But you do have to be practical around your short-term volatility tolerance.
It's also interesting to know how these markets correlate and decorrelate. And I think they're. Obviously, if you're like savvy, you can kind of get an edge there, but also it is just a hedge, and it doesn't seem that difficult to understand. Like it doesn't seem, obviously, like a lot of autists are into it, but it doesn't seem like it's that difficult to understand, and also understand that cash is largely a scam in the way global financial markets have it set up. And it's just a hedge against that, just like digital gold and everything, especially in context of all this inflation and everything that's happened in the last 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I mean, look at all the inflation we've had, and Bitcoin has been a pretty good thing to be invested in during that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I keep hearing the term like shelling point with Bitcoin. Like, what does that mean?
It just means that like this is with regard to like sort of like multiple cryptocurrencies. We've already reached the shelling point. Means like in this category, this is already the thing that the sort of critical mass of people have chosen. So, you know, with respect to a currency, like generally multiple currencies is not a stable situation, even if the government's not mandating it. Like in a given, even historically, in a given region, in a given time period, there's typically one currency, right? Like it all sort of coalesces around the one thing that was Roman denarii, right? For like a good period of world history.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because I think about it, and every time, like, I was a skeptic going into it because I didn't really know much about it. I had heard about it. I heard the story of the guy who buying the pizza, you know, and all that. I had heard about it, and I was like, that's too volatile for someone like me. I don't want to have to pay attention to it that much. But I just, like I said, I would give myself a set limit of like, I'm just going to buy this much a week, buy this much a week. This is something I would take what I would save, and I would put, you know, I would divide X amount of percentage of that and then just go buy Bitcoin with it. And I'll be honest with you, like I've been a little happier with the Bitcoin stuff, and people get scared when, you know, the line goes down a little bit, but it's just like, man, like you can absorb it like pretty easy. And it's not, the stuff isn't going away, you know, like it's fine if you want to be the guy stuffing money in a mattress. I respect people that do that, but this is, I get it. Not your keys, not your coin. So I do need to get better at that. But
yeah, but no, I mean, the other thing is stuffing money in your mattress actually historically was not like a terrible idea, but like the problem is the money's broken, right? And that's the whole point of the Bitcoin is stuffing money in a mattress, a digital mattress, if you own your own keys, right? But that's, if you're doing it with dollars, the problem is you're paying sort of an inflation tax every year against those dollars that's kind of eating them away.
I see.
And that's got like one of the appeals to Bitcoin is honestly like people should not average people should not have to think about investing, right?
Yes.
Like you should be able to just save, and that should be enough. That it should also be fine if you want to get into investing, and that is a thing that you have particular talent or skill or ability for. But the problem with like the current monetary system, if we're just set Bitcoin aside, you're just talking about a dollar system, is that you like have to, you can't just save dollars and retire. You're never going to get there. You kind of have to participate in the stock market, right? And Bitcoin is like a sort of a bet on that maybe that system eventually ends and we move to a sound money system where your savings can actually be in currency instead of it's weird if you think about it. Like if you're just like a physician, even like, I'm not even talking about like even necessarily a low wage person. Why do you have to be thinking about like investing in like hundreds or thousands of different companies? Like that's weird. Like you should be focused on like fixing people up at the doctor's office and then just stashing some money away for when you're old, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's right. It's just like the whole amount of like literacy that's required to just like do something just because of lack of like societal trust. Like I just even think of something about like a mechanic or something. You know, I don't know how to fix cars, so I buy cars that are easy to fix because the parts are cheap. Now, that being said, I've gone to 3 different mechanics and can't trust them a lot of times. So I kind of feel the same way about Bitcoin sometimes, where it's like, well, I've heard different outlooks from so many different people, where I'm just like, okay, but this, I've just stepped away and seen Bitcoin for a while and just been like, okay, it's not as volatile as I thought. It's very constant, you know. Like I was playing around with Ethereum for a while, which I don't hate that, but it didn't win, you know.
From the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that red candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, can't do shit.
One of the things I wanted to talk about today, and Sai, you feel like you're alone on this. That's why I want to talk, because and you're not. I just haven't paid attention to it that much, so it's tough for me to weigh in on it. But why don't you walk me through what's happening to this? Is it a supposed MS-13 member?
Me?
Yeah. Walk me through the situation. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, again, this stuff is so hard to parse out what's true and not, which is another reason why I think lurching in any one direction is kind of a fool's errand, but yeah, there's, the whole, there's the El Salvador connection to the leader in that country. I forget, Bukele or I forget how to say his name.
Bukele.
Yeah, who's arguably transformed his country by just locking up,
punishing people for crime. Punishing people for crime.
Yes. Yeah, and being, relatively authoritarian about it, and it's worked, in terms of getting, the streets safe again. And he's, he's well liked and everything, and so there's these deportation cases in America under the Trump administration where they're just sending these guys. I think they have a contract with Bukele's like supermax prison system where they're kind of like, all right, if you're MS-13 gang member, you're going straight to this spot. And the critics, there's all sorts of there's whisperings of this being done to totally, at least in relative terms towards gang crime, totally innocent people. Maybe they're here illegally, but they're not MS-13. Yeah. Or that in this case, this guy might be like a legit MS-13 member, or maybe like a borderline kind of MS-13, like he was flirting with it, and then he gets sent there. I think in this specific case, from what I understand, they did make a mistake in that they literally picked the wrong guy, and ICE admits that. They say this is not the guy that we wanted to send. And he did had an active, regardless of whether you think this is legit or not, had an active do not deport to El Salvador clause or whatever. I don't know how that works legally. And that was violated to send him here. And the Supreme Court overturned it 9-0, including Clarence Thomas and every conservative member of the thing. And so they're saying that they have to make haste and bring him back to the United States and do, I don't know how it even works, some kind of trial. And just, if I may editorialize a little bit, I think, I don't know, it seems like you're either put into these two camps of like, you're either super based, rah, like kind of this thing. And then there's like we know that the liberals aren't going to freak out about this regardless, of deporting people in general. And of course, this is all in the backdrop of letting in, 10, 11 million, maybe more people over the last 4 years, just completely open borders, which is insane.
During a downtime of our country, by the way.
Yes. And that's just not fair, or it's not helpful to them or the people in America. And so my whole thing is, I think this is kind of playing with fire, and it's sloppy in a way that hurts the overall project. And I just don't see that nuance being expressed. And so there's some people are saying, I got to say, I'm not saying I believe this, but I'm saying, hey, that might be possible. It's hard to deport 11 million people. And
of course.
So they might be doing this. Maybe they might be doing this just to kind of get activist judges against them and saying like, oh, look, our hands are tied. Our country's retarded, blah, blah, blah. We can't do any of this stuff. And my whole thing with regard to the prison or whatever, I don't care. Just like, I don't care about sending people to prison. I don't care about doing all this like judicial shit. Just like, let's just verify and get out. That's kind of my take. But I don't know. It seems, I don't know. I feel it's one of those weird things where you kind of express this and you just get, I don't know. Maybe I'm putting this in my own head, but you get the sense that people are like, oh, I thought you were based, or
they think oh, let's open borders now because
And I'm thinking this is ultimately going to slow down this process.
I see.
Roadblock and just really gum up the thing rather than being precise and razor clean with it. And also, I just don't implicitly trust ICE as a rule. I don't think there's. I'm not saying I distrust them, but I don't think they're like fucking SWAT soldiers or whatever, or like Marines or so. I mean, they're just like ICE, and I don't know. That's my rant on it. And I also do think I could be totally making this up. I think there's people that agree with me that might be kind of scared to express this because they're scared of counter signaling anything now, and they think it's like not trusting the plan. I'm like, come on, what the fuck? I don't know. That is my long-winded rant about that. But
there's a little more legal detail around the edges there too that I want to fill in. So
I want that.
That's why I wanted to ask you, because I don't know. I honestly don't know.
So the guy they picked up, right, and I don't entirely disagree with what you're saying, by the way, Sai, but I want to kind of fill in a little bit here. No, so the guy they picked up, which is actually interesting how like the media coordinates like a lot of phrasing of stuff. Like they're calling him a Maryland man. Like, I don't know if you guys have picked up on that.
Interesting.
All the Democratic, because they can't call him an American, but so they're all saying
Maryland family man.
Maryland man, Maryland all the politicians too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so correct. He was deported accidentally by what they're saying is administrative error. He is he is a citizen of El Salvador. He was in the United States illegally. What happened was, to your point, he had there was an order entered that said he could not. It wasn't that he couldn't be deported. It said he couldn't be deported back to El Salvador because he had made the claim that MS-13 was basically after him for some reason, and that he would be in danger if he was deported back to El Salvador.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is, through administrative error, they deport him back to El Salvador. The issue is a couple different things going on here. So number one, that order was violated. And then the other thing I really want to drill down on, because there's an intentional obfuscation around what this means, is that he was denied due process. A lot of people think that means a trial. Those are different rights under the Constitution. Your right to a trial is not a right that illegal aliens have under the Constitution. Everyone has right to due process. Not everyone has the right to a trial. The Sixth Amendment does not apply to illegal aliens. That's very clear under the law.
And it never has.
And it never has.
Yep.
Never has. Yeah. This is like not.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Due process, what that means is there has to be something in place to show that this isn't being done arbitrarily. And I'll kind of give you like a random example. This is not meant to be exact. It's meant to be directionally accurate.
Yeah.
If they had picked him up, it doesn't even have to be a judge. Put him in front of an administrator and said, like, can we verify that this guy's here illegally? And they said yes, stamped it, threw him on the plane, and sent him back to El Salvador. That would have been due process. Like, this does not have to be like a 6-month trial. Right. There doesn't have to be evidence and it's just, there has to be like a process in place. So that's one thing I want to drill down on. Number two is once he is in El Salvador, he is a citizen of that country, right? So he is theirs. Like, it's not, he is now in his home country, whether or not he returns to the United States. And of course, there's diplomacy and things that could be done, but that is not like, an American judge cannot order that. And the Supreme Court didn't order that. They just said you had to facilitate it for that reason. Because the Supreme Court cannot mandate how the president handles foreign affairs. So they can't force him to like go and try to, trade something away to El Salvador to get released. He's under that sovereign nation's control, and he's a citizen of that nation.
Yeah.
A couple more things that I want to fill in here that are just sort of relevant to the situation. So like when Stephen Miller says that, he's not lying, that he's like legally and factually correct. The other issue is again, Miller is correct about, there is no world where this guy could come back and not then, and that they would then be restricted from immediately deporting him. And let me explain what that means by a couple things. Number one, MS-13 no longer exists in El Salvador because they're all in the Supermax, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, they could just put him in front of a hearing officer or whoever and say, there's no more MS-13. That's factually true. That gets stamped and he goes right back to El Salvador, right? He's in CCOT because El Salvador says that he is an MS-13 gang member, right? There's debate about that.
It's but chicken the egg thing. Yeah.
Correct. But that also could be the reason he's afraid of them if he got out of there, right? Like that, But that's like an El Salvador issue, like because he's
it's kind of ironic that he's going into the prison that
where
he's supposed to be. Yeah.
No, you're right.
I was going to say, like, if this is legit MS-13, I do not. I don't like the sympathizing, and I don't like.
I hate it. MS-13 is terrifying.
Yeah.
And sorry, I cut you off. Go on.
No. The last point I'll make is, even if that weren't the case and MS-13 was still active, all that happens is you bring him back. You go in front of that hearing officer, he stamps deport, and he just has to be sent to some third country. We have agreements with countries on this stuff. That's like presumably even worse for this guy. Imagine if you're just some random Salvadoran, where are we going to drop you off? Like in Egypt or some crap? Right.
But
I'm arguing that that's probably what should have happened in the first place. Like,
yes, it probably
can't stay here, can't go to El Salvador legally, however you feel about that. Just go to Venice, just anyway, and that's why I'm saying, like, this whole thing is kind of, it's almost like a spectacle, and like it's almost, I don't know if there's some deeper strategy here or whatever.
I think it's that they just don't want to look weak on these issues, and they don't want to give it. Honestly, I'm not saying you're wrong, because what you're saying, there is a logic to what you're saying, Sai, but I think it's more so just like, we don't want to appear weak. We want to seem like we're in control, and especially to our base, seem like we got it under control. And also, this guy was, even though we made this error, he was supposed to be deported. Does it look bad? Yeah, it does. Like, I will admit that. Like, they should have just, to your point, Sai, they should have put him in front of the officer. They would have been like, okay, we're sending him to Guatemala or wherever, wherever we have some deal cut, and he's out of here,
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. I think, and obviously this is like one dude, and I do think there probably are other cases where it might not be so clear. And then, like, JD Vance is kind of doing this. He's like replying on Twitter to these like random, like, Zaid Johanny or whatever, and I like JD Vance. I'm not like, I like him, but he's clearly like not addressing the substance of what is being talked about. He was just saying he's MS-13. He's MS-13. It's like, obviously, like, the liberal side, they don't care about that, and I hate when they defend criminals that are destroy the fabric of our society and make it unsafe. I don't like that, but I think they got caught in like a weird situation where they have to kind of tiptoe around it and dance around it. And again, it's hard. I understand the base behind this is the millions and millions of people that got let in over the last 4 years.
I mean, it's a fucking mess. It's a mess right now.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know. It's like, I just feel I can't be the only one feeling this way on a lot of this stuff. And thank you for clarifying all the legalities of it. And I think that's rock solid,
Yeah. And by the way, I also agree with you that the bigger, like, I hope they continue to deport people, particularly, but not only, criminals. And the bigger issue, though, is E-Verify. That's the hot potato everyone's afraid to touch, because that E-Verify means that you can solve maybe not 100% of the problem, but you can solve a lot of it without having to need the manpower to deport anybody.
That's what I meant by ICE, about not trusting ICE. Is like, I don't trust.
E-Verify? I'm in the dark.
E-Verify, all it means is, like, if you hire someone, you have to put their information through a national database. This exists. It's just not mandatory today, to verify that they are legally allowed to work in the United States, that they're not an illegal alien, that they're either here on a proper visa or they're a citizen or whatever. And if you're an employer, when people talk about mandatory E-Verify, what they want, what I'm arguing for is, like, if you're an employer and you don't do that, you should just get shut down. I
agree with punishing business for that. I really agree.
Yeah. So that's, I've seen a few people say, if we were more serious about this as a country or as an administration, we would just go after that route, because right there, at least as like a warning or like a gunshot fired in the air, like, hey, like, you can't do this, or you as an employer might go to prison or might get punished or something.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's the way to do it, because that's what will actually solve, like, the root of a lot of problems. Yeah. Ironically, the one thing it doesn't solve is, like, the criminal gang problem, but that's where the deportations come in. But for everybody else, and like the wages and, just the wage depression issue from too much immigration, it does solve that problem. There's a lot of very insincere arguments against E-Verify where they're like, oh, with like a privacy violation in your freedom. It's like, bro, do you get on an airplane? Because like, if like, unless
It's
you're
like
not
voting.
flying,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Like, unless you're not flying, bro, like what are we even talking about right here in terms of,
Yeah, because part of the schizophrenic thing that has been induced by the last 5 years, especially, for me, I always have these flashbacks to the possible rollouts of vaccine passports and things like that. So I'm always like skeptical when there's this new like verification process coming in. There's a big debate I see amongst my ilk on the internet of real ID.
Yeah.
Like the real ID, which I still don't get why like I don't get why there's real ID. I don't understand anything about it, but they were trying to roll out the real ID during COVID. I remember. And then they pushed it back. They pushed it back.
Well, no. So like, this is actually really interesting. So this all happened after September 11th. Basically, they said, look, there's going to be a phase-in period. States have to do at least this higher level of identity verification to get your ID. That's basically real ID, right? And there's also, I believe, a national database component to it. Most states did this 15 to 20 years ago. So for instance, like my state implemented real ID in 2010. So like, this is like not an issue. Like I have a real ID without even thinking about this.
Oh gosh.
That basically what happened though, is the government kept pushing back the deadline where you had to have a real ID to fly primarily. And the news reporting doesn't capture this because of New Jersey, because New Jersey kept screwing up the rollout. Like it was not a civil liberties thing by the New Jersey government. They kept screwing it up so badly that they rolled it out twice, like over the past 20 years, 15 years, whatever it is. And it just failed. Like they literally could not get it right. Like they tried to roll it out. Initially they tried to do a thing like you needed a special appointment at certain DMVs to get the real ID. And otherwise you got like a non-real ID. And they just kept screwing it up. And the feds pushed back the deadline to fly primarily because people that lived in New Jersey were having such a tough time getting them. And then basically Kristi Noem came out like a few weeks ago and said, as of May, whatever the date is, like you can't fly without it. We're done punting on this. The only place where this is really, for the most part, causing chaos is New Jersey because tons of people there do not have real IDs. In most other states, almost everyone, if not everyone, has had at least one license renewal because it's been in effect so long where they now have a real ID. There's also edge cases where there's like people that let their license expire and like they don't have one, like, and stuff like that. But for the most part, like recently I was traveling in Texas and the Uber driver, when I was coming back from the airport, had the radio on and they said like in Texas, 99.6% or something like that of people in Texas had that had ID had real ID, right? Like just to give you an example of what this is like in most places. Because like I said, most states like implemented this in like 2010, 2011. It's just, I think New Jersey's the only one I'm aware of where I don't even understand how they could have screwed it up so badly, but they did.
It's crazy. I know. I still have to get mine. Actually, California's a nightmare right now. You have to like go make an appointment at the ID only California DMV thing, and Lord knows with the sanctuary state that we are. Like, the California had some issues with it too. I wasn't aware of that. Big time issues. It's and I don't know. I know I have to do it, so I'm going to. But like,
I thought that. I was always just relying on that you can have a passport and be good in airports.
A passport is a real ID.
Yeah, I don't have a passport, so yeah. I should get that.
Yeah, it only matters if you either don't have a passport or you're flying without your passport. If you're just trying to fly like domestically with your driver's license.
Okay.
Yeah, like this. Like I said, not an issue for me because my state implemented it in 2010.
Gosh, yeah, that's crazy. All right. Well, the last thing I want to ask you about too is RFK. I mean, that's kind of my disappointment a little bit right now. And look, it's been 100 days. I've never been more excited about a person getting power, to be honest. than RFK after years of reading children's health defense, covering stuff as we have on here. Sai's long-standing history with children's health defense as a subscriber when you were in like middle school. It's crazy. I can't believe that
you were a child defending your own health.
Yeah. Seriously,
I don't know how I think I just fell down the Mercola rabbit hole like super young, weirdly, and like that just led me.
That's awesome. Now, I have higher standards for him than I do other people. I just do, and that's the problem. It's kind of this. It becomes this thing when you shill for a guy, when you go crazy, you're kind of like, I need this to happen. Now there's the food dye stuff, which I anticipate is going to be a long drawn out process. A lot of businesses, there's going to be a lot of money that he's going to have to fight against there. But the other day he's touting MMR vaccine. And however, I understand maybe all of our listeners, not everyone's going to be in agreement with me on it. I definitely don't support the combined 3-in-1 shot of MMR. I just think that's kind of an autism bomb, just my speculation. And just kind of it just seems like a lot of stuff points that way, in my opinion. But there were 2 children. I believe one was a Mennonite kid, and then another child that died in the hospital of measles. That's what we're told. They were unvaccinated and they died of measles. Now, in my mind, I think they were a little bit more malnourished and stuff, kind of just neglected. Unvaccinated as a side of neglect rather than actual, care from parents who raise healthy children but don't give them vaccines. But it kind of feels like, a lot of, I'm not accusing the hospitals of anything, but if I was RFK, I really wanted him to investigate those hospitals. But he kind of does this party line thing, and sure, maybe there's a game of politics you have to play where he's saying like that's still the best treatment against autism is the 3-shot thing. I have his I have his
treatment against measles.
Excuse me. Sorry, measles. Yeah, you're right. Because I have his measles books that literally doesn't say that. I have it. He wrote a book that doesn't say that's the best treatment against it. So it's how I learned that vitamin A is a great treatment for measles. So where are you at with all of this? And I understand he cannot just he can't rug pull, right? He can't rug pull the medical industry. I know they can't do that. It's just some of the messaging kind of bothers me a little.
Yeah, I get it. And so, I mean, as to the actual issue, like I've heard some of the measles stuff, but I'm not well informed enough on the specific issue. To the broader point though, I don't know. It's hard to say. Sometimes my assumption always in situations like that is that he's picking battles. Like I'm not, my first impulse is not to be a black pill guy. Like is generally like, is he picking battles here and going at and picking select targets and just on the things like MMR, which maybe he views as less of a problem than some other things that he's going to expend political capital on. Do you know what I'm saying? That's my best guess.
Yeah, because what I get is like I get for like optics, you don't want to come out and be like mark of the beast on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like I get that. I understand why that's a bad idea. I always roll my eyes at people who I agree with who are like, no, RFK, like, do the like, Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator, like loading the gun thing. Like, let's go take him down. Like, no, this guy is a lawyer. Like this guy understands that this is a long drawn out process that you have to do that. I guess my take on it is those measles deaths are used against him more than anybody.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I'm like, Dan, you kind of, I'm not going to accuse the hospitals of doing stuff. I'd imagine I understand hospitals did a lot of martyring of people, I should say, in 2020, and that a lot of that.
I'll pose the question. I'll pose it. Yeah, I'll pose it. Yeah.
But I guess I think people understand what I'm trying to say. Is to me, these deaths are made for people to like pearl clutch and say, we have an absolute freak as our HHS secretary right now. This is going to happen in droves and droves and droves, where to me, I'm like, you're not gaining a lot of followers by saying MMR vaccine is the best treatment.
I agree there, but it might have been a thing where like, if he had said that it's not the better treatment, whatever interests there are in favor of the MMR vaccine would have gone ballistic and made it a bigger story than it was.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the picking battles might have come in. Just like, look, I'm going to take a lump on this, either way, but if I do it this way, especially with Abrego Garcia going on right now, who we just talked about dominating the news cycle, do you know what I mean? This will kind of like flip Peter out and I live to fight another day. That's a complete speculative guess on my part.
It's all speculation. I mean, nobody, like, that's the thing, is nobody really knows. It's there. It's just, and I guess, to me, I'm bullish on him long term for like food and stuff. Even though I know he's HHS and he's not technically agriculture, I do think he's going to have the ability to like influence that side of it, because he is such a polarizing figure. Whether people either hate him or think he's the best person. Nobody's an RFK centrist. And I like the stuff going after the food dyes. I love going. I liked the SNAP stuff too. Like I like all of that. So I don't know. We haven't asked you about any of that stuff, but how do you feel about?
I mean,
any of that?
And those dyes are, if I'm recalling correctly, they're already illegal in Europe. So it's not even like a crazy thing. Like this is, I mean, everybody's seen this before, but like you pick some random packaged food and you look at the ingredients, which is probably not good for you either way, but like look at the ingredients list in the European Union and then look at the ingredients list in the United States, and it's like 5 times as many ingredients, right? And you can't pronounce any of them. So that just proves that there's like not a great reason for allowing these things in the food.
Yeah. I think Vinay Prasad, who is kind of weird and a little, not everyone in this space trusts him. I don't fully trust him, but he wrote an article that was like, and to his credit, he supports RFK, and he was like, let's take every mainstream RFK issue and let's compare his take to what they do in Europe, and every single, fluoride, dyes in the food, everything was like, and that's why it's ironic that like the dirtbag leftist thing of, oh no, you're taking away my red 40. It's all the stuff they do in Europe, which they love, and they think that's like a utopia over there, and so, or fluoride or all this stuff. It's crazy. I will say the health warriors are like, they're like, and I guess I am one, and you guys probably too are. We're like kind of like single issue guys. So it's like, if you're not going after MMR, like you're dead to me. And we had a discussion in our little group about where it was kind of like, I don't think we should be blackpilling. No. For sure, and I agree, and I don't think you are, Glenn, at all. No. Yeah, but also, it begs the question, like, is there a little blackmail going on? It's interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment.
It's a tough. You cannot. Pharma's tough. I mean, pharma's tough.
It's the toughest nut to crack out of all of them, I think. Weirdly enough,
and he is a Kennedy.
Yeah,
and he is.
Yeah. So there's a lot of No, I mean those are valid points. But what's kind of funny too is like, the stuff you're talking about being banned, it's like, it's not even just like EU, it's like Russia bans a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, even just, for instance, I think Russia even bans glyphosate, which like in the United States, you're considered like a nut if you think that. Yeah.
There was a billboard somebody like drove by, and I don't know if I'm getting it correct, but it was just like, I think I have it here. It was somebody in our Discord had said that it was something like they drove by and it was something about like, oh yeah, somebody saw a billboard. I don't know where this is, but it said, quote, "Control weeds, not farmers. Stand up for glyphosate."
Yeah, there was a big push.
That's one weird billboard.
That's an insane,
so weird.
That's an insane billboard. Like, I've never.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's kind of like the farmers. First of all, it's weird what a farmer is now. How it's. Like
that's your new Matt Walsh documentary. What is a farmer?
Yeah, what is but it's like now, you're either like you're right. You're either buying like $2 million worth of chemicals every quarter as like a giant Iowa farm that's just raising pig slop, pig grain or whatever, or you're like a medium farm fighting this and you're getting sued because Monsanto's seed blows under your field or whatever. Even though they say that doesn't happen, it's kind of questionable what it does, but. Yeah, it's interesting. Glyphosate's ironic. It's probably safer to use Roundup on your lawn and handle it like a few times a year than it is to eat it like
100%,
eat it chronically every day, like in parts per billion, where it wrecks your microbiome and shit. But
almost undoubtedly so, right? Like, that's like one of the funnier parts about this whole thing.
Yeah, I know. I like I said, I'm not blackpilling, but I do feel a responsibility to be like there's a more concrete path that I want to see. And I really, like, we've talked about it, what I actually expect of him. I don't expect him to go like Joker mode and like blow up vaccine stuff. I don't expect him to do that. I expect him to win or at least start a legal battle, start the thing where it's just like transparency. Because we know anybody who's been in this stuff for a long time understands that like these people are like burning like clinical trials, like straight up. And there's just a lot of stuff that happened. And I was excited getting like a lawyer in there. And again, that's type of stuff where if there is and this is a guy who, you know, by his own admission had some transgressions in his past. So there could be a lot of stuff be like, hey, you haven't told everybody everything that you did in your past. So it's tough. And again, not blackpilling, but I was just like, man, he needs a push from me. What
is interesting, I wonder if he'll like, so the easy mode to start on, if you're going to do vaccine stuff, is to start poking around mRNA vaccines, right? Because it's
easy.
Right. Because I mean, I guess not everyone would agree, but let's say many people would agree. Those are both the least effective and most dangerous.
Right? I think you're objectively true. I think this was a genuinely, even if you hate all of them, even if you're like, get me out, I will never, I don't want any of that stuff in my blood. The mRNA one, specifically because of how we knew how to treat the virus and what it did and the ticket out of things, like, and then what it has done to people. I'm sorry, we all know somebody that's had some issue with it. You're right, it's objectively the worst one, like right
and
now.
It's mandated for children and infants still, which is crazy. That's what he should.
There's states that actually mandate it.
Well, what it is, and you'd be interested in this as a legal guy, is it's such a like shell game where the CDC recommends that, you know, if you're 3 months, so that you get three mRNA code vaccines under the age of 1 is this if you were taking and then California, let's say, will be like, we're following CDC guidelines, and so they treat it
so
like
we're
a
going to mandate it.
But we're not. But it's like, oh, hey, no one's forcing you, but since somebody recommended it, we will codify it into law and basically inconvenience you until you take your child.
Yeah, it's like right, like you can't go to school or you can't like live That's what they tried to do even with the vaccine passports, was like, well, you don't have to get it, you just can't live in civil society without it, right? Like you just can't ever. The funniest one was, I never had an issue with that. My state didn't do anything like that. But during during COVID, during the vaccine era of COVID, I flew into Philadelphia International Airport, and the city of Philadelphia had vaccine passports. So I was allowed to be in the airport because like that's federal, and like you were still allowed to get on an airplane, but I could not eat anything in the airport because technically if I went into all of the stores, like all the stores that sell food in the airport or the restaurants in the airport, those were under the city restaurant vaccine passport. So like they had people checking if you wanted to go into the little thing to buy food. So I couldn't get anything to eat or drink in the airport. But I could be in the airport.
And so you have to shoulder tap like a kid in high school trying to buy beer.
That's
exactly.
That's like Kyrie Irving can't play at home games in the Nets or something. You know,
that was the funniest one. He couldn't play at Barclays Center.
I remember that.
But then he would go play a game at like Dallas or something. They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. And so it was ridiculous. I know America does the weirdest like soft authoritarianism sometimes, like where it's just like, you know, I'm thankful that we're not just people like, oh, he landed in Philadelphia, go inject him, you know, like I'm glad that we don't live in that society. But there's this like weird death by paper cut thing that we do when you don't comply, and it's just like it's really they're like, Americans love convenience so much they will cave in. Shout out to you for not doing it, but I love that.
One of the funnier ones too is like I had a speaking engagement. And it wasn't the organization that I declined. And it wasn't the organization, so I didn't blame them per se. But like, it was in a venue in a state where you would have had to have had it. And I remember them asking me, I don't know, I find this so funny. They asked me like, oh, do you have the vaccine? And I was like, well, which one?
No, that's an interesting part.
They were so mad. I was like, because I was making a joke, kind of like, I mean, I've had some, but not this one.
Sure. Yeah. Back in the day, maybe. Yeah.
No, and I think that points to like a weirder, broader thing during that whole time where they were saying you could mix and match like Johnson and Johnson and Moderna. You know, it was just all, you just got to do this thing. Science be damned. You know, combinations be damned. It was very strange. Yeah.
That's so strange. Well, Fredo, we thank you for your time, man. It's always fun catching up with you. We'll try not to make it such a long gap like last time, but you know, we got to We always like to check in. You add the nuance to something that I've researched barely. So I always love that.
It's always fun, guys. It's been a long time, but it felt like old times.
It felt like old times. But not as scary. Not as scary.
Correct. Actually, significantly less scary.
We're back.
Right?
We're so back. You know?
Yeah, when we had Alex Gutentag on, it was the same thing. We were just like,
Mm-hmm.
man, we used to be like so scared while we were talking to her and stuff because it would just be scary. It would suck. It was a bad condition. I'm like, I feel better. And the stuff I'm complaining about is like in the completely, it's like these like little parts of things that I genuinely like, you know? So that's a better place to be. I'll always complain a little bit. So it's that's just something that's going to happen. But you guys, make sure you guys, if you're not checking out Good Old Boys Radio live with Fredo, you guys it's every week, right? I know it's every week.
Yep, every Tuesday night, 9 Eastern.
And you can catch it on X now. So if you guys don't even have to have a podcast app, though you're probably listening to this on that, so I don't know why you wouldn't. But anyways, everybody have a safe week. We'll catch you guys next time.